All right, good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the August 15th Town of Ulysses Planning Board meeting, starting a little bit late. I'd like to take roll call for our records.
Linda Little.
Morris Klein.
Pete Angie, Chair. And I would like to ask if I could get a motion on approval of the agenda for tonight.
I'll make the motion.
I second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
I.
Excellent. All right, I would like to direct our attention to minutes from our last meeting, which was August 1st. Did we? Yeah.
We can put that.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Because half of them. are
Yeah.
here, so
Yeah, sounds good. Okay.
I'll make a motion to postpone the meeting, the
Approval of the
minutes till
minutes.
next meeting.
All right.
Second.
Any discussion? All in
Nope.
favor?
I.
Excellent. All right. So for the members of the public that are here, I'm going to read the business items tonight, and then I'm going to open privilege of the floor. And privilege of the floor is a time for any members of the public who would like to make comments on items that are not on tonight's agenda. So it's, if you have something completely out of left field, and then some of our agenda items have public hearing, in which case you'll have your opportunity to make comments on those items. The business items that we are looking at tonight are New Women's Residential Addiction Recovery Center, site plan, special permit review, public hearing, and the inn at Taganic Falls. So I'm going to open the floor to privilege of the floor for anything that's not related to those two. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to a matter that's not related to those two? Yes, and privilege of the floor, would you please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Someone kindly time me and.
I will, yeah.
15
Give me 1 second here, and I'll give you a minute. And
Don't mean to be rude.
all right, here, let me get this timer ready. And go ahead and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Vivian Rose. I live at 104 Pennsylvania Avenue in Trumansburg, New York.
All right, go for it.
And I'm holding my glasses because things change. I'm here to address the board today about what's most important to Town of Ulysses residents. I lived in the Town of Ulysses from 2002 until 2018, and I left to go back to the state in which I was born and raised. It didn't take me very long to realize that the Town of Ulysses is actually very special in a whole lot of ways. And many of those were captured in the comprehensive plan in 2009. So I wanted to say that what's precious to me is within the comprehensive plan that's still in force. I wanted to call the board's attention to the vision statement, which was the end toward which all policies, objectives, and actions were intended to be aimed by the plan. And I wanted to call the board's attention to the community survey on page 61, which says the things that were most important in the community in 2008. That I happened to participate in that survey. But the interesting thing to me about that was that, we take things for granted that are around us. But that was an opportunity for people to really say what was most important to them. And what was most important to them as defining aspects of the community that they called the character of the community were Taganic Falls State Park, 93%, open and green space, 90%, rural farmland, 89%, schools and educational opportunities, 84.5%. I'll round up for the next one, small town atmosphere, 83%. These top 4 responses up to the schools had the least responses that were unimportant or very unimportant.
In 1 minute.
So similarly, commercial and professional services in the town and shopping opportunities were rated the lowest of any of the important or very important categories. So this conservation of scenic beauty is one reason that I really came back to this area. And I want to say that it seems to me that the community character survey, this is a picture. This is a picture of something that people didn't want. The community character survey
In
gives
15
the boards an opportunity to look at what's most important in the character as they look at actions before the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on any of the items that are not on the agenda tonight? I would accept a motion to close tonight's privilege on the floor.
Second,
All right, thank you. And so that brings us to our first business item tonight, which is the New Women's Residential Recovery Center. And this is a site plan for a special permit review public hearing. So the way that we operate public hearings for special permit review is we give the applicant a chance to present their project to the public. They've presented it to us. We've also asked for some modifications, some additional information. They've come to the planning board over time, and we've asked for things to be tweaked. They've also, had an opportunity to be in front of the BZA as well. But this is really the public's first opportunity to, ask the applicants questions and make comments. So are the applicants here tonight? And would you, please, as you present, we want to see what changes that you may have made since last time, but if you could situate yourself in a way that you're also presenting to the members of the public, we would appreciate it.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ivan Garcia. I'm with Fontanese Folso Brickthurst Architects, and we're the architects for CARS. With me tonight is CARS' executive director, Jessica Jansen, as well as Eric Jensen. So they'll be able to speak for any questions related to the actual operations of the facilities. We're here for a site plan and a special permit review, in particular for a new proposed 25-bed residential treatment facility for women. And that is to go adjacent in the same property on the town of Ulysses side of the property on New York State 227, where there is an existing 60-bed residential treatment facility. Currently, a few things have happened in the past here in terms of size of the facility. The facility actually atrophied a bit. The parking areas atrophied a bit. We've maintained compliance with the 500-year storm per the site plan requests and requirements. And in this particular case, we've actually situated the property so that it is in line with the SWIP report. So if you'd like someone to talk about the operations, like I said, Jessica Jansen and Eric Johnson is also here.
I think that'd be great. Yeah, thank you. And if you wouldn't mind just giving a little history of the project, I think that would be helpful as well. And also, any potential projections about when, if it were approved, when you would be seeking to break ground, things like that.
Sure. My name is talking to Mr. Can
Oh.
everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's being recorded, so
Everybody
just
hear you
speak loud
guys?
enough. Yeah, thank you.
So this project has been in development. It actually preceded me. I'm Jessica Jansen. I am the CEO at Cuba Addiction Recovery Services. With me today, I'm the senior director over the residential program, Eric Jansen. We are not related. He spells his name wrong. He likes to tell people I spell mine wrong. He spells it. But so this project has been in the works since 2017. It took a bit of a pause. It had gone through site plan approval prior to this. And it was an approved project, but during COVID, a lot of things left. So we are here again presenting the project, and it is a little bit smaller at this point. It is designed to be a 25-bed women's residential rehabilitation. It will be co-located with our men's residential facility on the same property. It is a 24/7 supervised facility for people who are struggling with substance use disorder. And generally, the patient population coming in is going to stay between 3 to 6 months. And they would be coming from a higher level of care most often where they were receiving potentially a detox support or more medically supervised services.
That's good. Good.
Eric, do you have anything you want to add?
I think that the only other thing that I would speak to that has changed a bit is CARS is recently affiliated with Cayuga Health System, including Cayuga Medical Center, which is where I come into that picture. And I think one of the things that adds is a level of responsiveness and a level of accountability, et cetera, that perhaps CARS wasn't as agile to do in the past, that we can do. So I think that there is some opportunity for things to be addressed in a different way. There's certainly very significant things in place for folks to have concerns heard and to have them addressed in an appropriate and I think reasonable kind of way that is part of the medical system that exists. And it also provides some additional oversight that I think is sometimes very welcome, especially when you're talking about someplace out in the, out in the edge of a town and what's going on out here and having that piece. So I think that that's there. And I think that you've also got a situation within the existing residents that leadership structure is much more intact to go along with those systems. So those are things that are very positive changes that I think would be reflective of not only the current operations, but then extended to the women's operations.
Great, thank you.
So typically how we do this is with a public hearing. We'll ask you to take a seat, and then members of the public come forward. You each get 3 minutes, state your name, address, and make comments. And then after that, the board will discuss the project. And sometimes we give the applicants, an opportunity to maybe address some of the questions or concerns that were raised. And then, we will decide tonight either to, ask for more information or to extend the public comment period or to make an approval of the permit. So you are welcome to have a seat, and public comment period is open. So as you choose, come on forward and make a comment if you have one. Getting my timer ready. Come on up.
My name's Mac Travis, and this is the old Alba House, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very effective. I was on the board there for 5 or 6 years, and just really impressed with what it could bring to the community. And it's out of town, it's not in your face, it's quiet and peaceful, and I would certainly support that.
Thank you. So anyone else that would like to make a comment on this particular project, and of note, comments. Never mind. I was just going to say, if you've had a comment before that you've made at other meetings, this is a time for comments that are specific to this project. So if you would like your comments to be recorded in this public comment period, now is your time. Please come forward. Thank you. I'm gonna open this up. It's just seltzer. No, it's non-alcoholic seltzer. You can't just say seltzer anymore. People think.
My name is Penny McGuire, and I live at 6560 Route 227, which is not quite directly across from Cars, but down the road a bit. My observation over the years, I've been there since 1966, is that I must commend the current staff. They are doing a marvelous job compared to the past. We've had lots of problems with them in the past, and it's much better now. My only problem is not with Cars, but with the architect's plans. The lighting at that site, some of it is directed directly at my house. I had to move my bedroom from the downstairs to an upstairs on the opposite side. No one has seemed to understand that they don't need a spotlight. They said there's a problem with lights in the parking lot. Install lights that are built like the footlights in a theater that are shielded from the back. If they can't see to walk, put them at ground level. But no overheads, no floodlights. I don't feel they're necessary, and after all, it is country. And it has been country forever out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to make comment on this project? Please. And just restate your name. Thank
I'm
you.
Vivian Rose still, and I still live at 104 Pennsylvania Avenue. And my comment on this has to do with the lighting that was mentioned. There are means of directing lighting down, but also there are means of choosing the spectrum of the light that's not going to affect the wildlife and the pollinators and other insect populations. The red part of the spectrum, not the amber. And the blue light in those lights also affects people's ability to sleep and to think. So to be very careful in your consideration about how the lighting affects the mental and physical health, not only of the human population, but of the rest around. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from people that are here today, including people online? I'd like to keep the public comment period open and discuss among ourselves. So Linda, Mo, what are your thoughts?
Since previous meeting, when we heard about the lighting situation, I think we need to get a really respectful acknowledgement of that and have more information about exactly what the lighting will look like, and maybe in a 360 perspective. And so we'd ask, probably for a better plan or a more detailed plan that we would understand.
Yeah. I would want the same. I would want to see lighting that is that addresses the concerns that were raised tonight. Be that there's different terms for it, different design terms for it, but there's sort of downcast lighting. There's also shielded lighting. There's also lighting, like you mentioned, that's low. And I also know that the headlights, from cars as well, as cars are coming and going at night in the parking lot from previous comments, that we've heard during privilege of the floor, previous meetings have also had a similar effect on the neighbors of being intrusive. You know, shifts end at night, right? They may end at 10 o'clock.
Right.
People get into their cars, people are pulling in. And I just wonder, is there some kind of vegetative buffer or some kind of low fence, something
Yeah.
that would mitigate that effect on the neighbors, you know, to be a good neighbor, essentially, to those that are most affected by the issues that were brought up.
Yeah, I think that more landscaping along the road would be appropriate to keep that lighting away from neighbors.
At least the parking lot.
At least along the parking lot.
Yeah, the
like,
parking lot stuff.
I don't know, something appropriate that, you know, like grasses or shrubs,
Mhm.
something that's gonna last the
Through the
year,
winter.
through the winter as well, which is harder with,
We have that.
well, so evergreens, right?
Yeah, right.
Evergreens, something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
yeah, so. Any neighbors of the facility, did you receive notice in the mail of this hearing tonight?
Yes,
Yes, okay, and how long ago did you receive the notice?
couple of weeks, I think.
Okay,
Shortly after the last.
okay, all right, thank you.
Good.
So, I mean, there's two ways we could go about this, right? We could approve with an addendum, but I feel like because the lighting is something that,
It is important.
it's
yes.
important and also, you know, it's not like a simple answer, like I would want to be able to see and read and digest sort of what it is that you're putting forth as a solution, as opposed to later on scratching my head and saying, well, I guess it works, and not having the opportunity to ask you about it, right? Not having the opportunity to get a look at it and review it, you know, with some time before making a decision. I'd rather not make a decision now with information after the fact. Especially as well, because we are a board of 5 and there's only 3 of us here tonight. And yes, we can function. However, this is a big project. This is a big project for the community. I personally, you know, don't see any other issues with the
I don't
project
either.
other than the lighting.
Right.
Do either of you?
No, I'm
No.
good.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
our other.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask the architect if I could. In the parking lot, are you putting pole lights up? So that poles and lights will shine down? correct?
Yes, correct. And actually, if
I was gonna say, is there any way to put, I know I've seen in a lot of areas where they have low lighting, you know. Yeah, right, all the way around and it lights up the parking lot, but it doesn't light up the sky. Is there a possibility to do that?
Right.
Well, that depends on how much lighting they actually need for the campus. Is there a reason for all the lighting in the campus in the evening? That's the next question.
Right, so our new facility, our new proposed 25-bed facility
Yeah.
is going to be dark sky compliant.
Okay.
So we're gonna have, special attention for what we're terming light pollution essentially, which is overcasting the light into the neighbors. What I do maybe ask for a little clarification, is it the existing building, the existing 60-bed maybe that?
It is, yeah.
It is,
Right.
yeah.
So we would have to then kind of work on the existing building in order to be able to find the spots that are best strategic
Right.
locations for the landscape buffers that we're talking about now. Or for that matter, maybe rethink the luminaires on the poles, or for that matter, even as people are saying, shielding if there's any wall packs on the existing building. So that's something we can take a look at and possibly even provide cut sheets of the actual luminaires, because there is actually some requirements for that the town has in terms of architectural design, in particular to temperature of the light. So in the new facility, we are looking to that. We actually wrote a letter and submitted it to the planner.
I saw that, yes.
That is, it's actually talking about the compliancy with cutoffs, so that the cone of the spread of the light is specific to the actual project and doesn't spill over to the neighbors. But that really only addresses the new.
The new one, yes.
Yeah, So we would have to take a look in conjunction with our client, have to take a look at the existing building to be able to answer some of the
That's a
concerns.
that's a
Was
good
shared
point, yeah.
Would the,
Yeah, I-
addressing you, would you,
Stepped up just to,
would you accept that the older lighting can be redirected or changed?
yes, we actually, I was able to have a conversation with Penny last week. We had installed a new light out on the front of the current facility. And we are reconsidering that light for the existing facility already. But I do think that one of the primary reason, or one of the primary issues is that the light on the current facility
Mhm.
is shining towards some of the neighbors' houses. So
Yeah.
I do think that it's separate from this particular project,
Mhm.
that
Well,
piece, but we are
yeah.
absolutely looking into that right now.
Good.
And looking at what our alternatives are. So I just wanted to go on record saying
Great.
we're working on that right now.
Right, and I would say, yes, the new one is in existence, but sort of what we're looking at is what's the impact on the community of expanding, the facility, and so are there ways that the impact overall can be mitigated? Like sometimes you look at sort of like an existing property and they're building something new and somebody may excavate something on the existing property because it's going to help with water flow, not getting into the other one. Sort of, I'm looking at it from that aspect a little bit of how you can mitigate the impact overall.
And I think one of, Morris, I think it was you that asked the question regarding, the impact to the operations and what is the need or what is the.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So for the existing facility, we actually, staff were leaving with flashlights actually, because there was no lights at one point. And so we obviously have to answer to our certifiers as well, and we had a fall. And so we had to have enough light so that we can prevent tripping and falling in the parking lot. And obviously to meet the requirements of our certification team. So we're trying to balance that as well. But I do very much appreciate and liked the suggestion about shifting the direction of the lighting. That seems like a very reasonable recommendation.
Yeah,
And we are looking into that for the existing facility.
that's correct.
Yeah,
Oh,
current codes
yeah.
actually do specify certain foot candles that are minimum,
Mhm.
so that things like safety, the safety of the occupants is taken care of, so.
Yeah, and obviously worker safety matters to us as well. I mean, these are
Right.
people that live, in this community that
Yeah.
work there. And as far as like vegetation along parking area, for them, because it is a 24/7 facility, like people are coming and going in the dark.
Yeah.
If that's some,
Sometimes.
is that something that you as the architect can present something to us, or is that not in your wheelhouse because that's the landscape?
No.
Yes, I just asked if that's something that the architect can recommend, can come up with a plan for vegetation around the parking lot or some other shield for headlights, because they do shine into folks' houses. So go ahead.
Yeah, so we have a bioretention that's at the foot of the proposed new parking, so that's this feature right here. Okay, so that has a mixture of different plants, and it's really to be sort of a bioabsorption for the stormwater runoff that would be coming off the new proposed parking. To the south of that, we can also look at possibly doing a conifer row, for example, whether it be arborvitaes or some smaller dwarf blue spruce or what have you, to be able to give at least a buffer for headlights. Because I think I just heard someone talk about headlights.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a possibility for the new parking. For the existing parking, again, we'd have to take a look at that, because that's not our purview.
Right, okay.
I've got
Yeah.
some ideas.
Great, okay. Would you be able to, have something to us for our September 5th meeting? Is that
Absolutely.
enough time?
Yes.
I mean, and we do need a couple, we like to have a couple weeks to look at stuff, but in this case, we need at least, 10 days.
Yeah.
Um,
We can turn something around within a week's time.
That'd be great.
Oh, that would be
Okay,
good.
that'd be
Yeah,
great.
you guys take a look at it.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
That's
So
just-
I would accept a motion to continue the public comment
Yes.
period until our next meeting.
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you everyone for your comments as well. So that brings us to the next order of business. Let's flip back through here. And here we have. I'm just. All right, so just a little bit of history. The next piece of business on the agenda tonight is the Inn at Teganic Farms, the inn at, or I guess it's Teganic Farms in at Teganic Falls is
There you go.
is asking for a special zoning district, special development district to build a hotel on the site. Last time that we came together, they presented their application to us, and we asked for some additional information. Some of the information was like parking, wastewater, you know, the number of events being held, things like that. And so you're back before us tonight, hopefully to present some of that information.
I'm gonna share my screen, so. For a second.
Take your time, you know, I took mine, didn't I?
You need to get funding for 2 screens.
Yeah, we too.
What kind of tax hit is that?
I'll just start with it. Okay. So I've provided a supplement in response to the questions. Hopefully you've all had a chance to take a look. Jason Demers, the architect, by the way. So I'm just gonna run through those very quickly.
Could I ask, did you email that?
Yeah, that was,
that?
yeah.
It should be, I think it's at the end of the
Of the
photographs that we have.
okay.
Yeah, it might have been, is this document here?
That document, okay,
So, yeah.
Up a little bit,
Yes.
nice.
okay.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Okay,
Is that, I'm just looking, Niels, is that from 8/11 right here?
8/8 was the
8/8,
date, but maybe you received it on.
I just wanted to make sure I got through it before I started opening.
What page? The town's.
Mhm.
They came in late. So.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, Jason, go ahead. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, so, there's some questions about the comp plan update. I made a few comments about that. Specifically, I would just note the town board was asked that question. Did they want to wait for the rewrite and authorize this to go forward? I might have mentioned that last time. I'll get to the view shed study in a minute, but that was one of the big requests. I've given a little bit of an explanation of the parking demand of the new hotel, if it's approved, and what the current demand is. And the site plan that was submitted previously shows, 225 spaces on site. I was coming up with a surplus of 67, so that can accommodate some larger events. Plus, I was also conservative about wedding guests tend to arrive in 2 to 4 people per vehicle. I was just using 2. And then even hotel rooms, I was using 1 space per room. Many people travel together, so. So trying to be a little conservative on that. Give you a little bit of a update on the events for the year. I looked at the attendance records for weddings occurred and for the rest of this year. 101 guests per event, 122 guests are averaging per event day. So sometimes there is a small event, say in the restaurant,
Mm.
and then out on the wedding garden or enchantment, as we call it. And then, 150 is anticipated to be the average size. I don't know that we can really accommodate more on average, although there are larger events. In particular, enchantment is averaging 188 guests per event. Not always, and that's not every weekend necessarily. So a little more info in there. There's also in that bullet point regarding this, there's only so many days in the year. What I noticed from the record was that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's really when you have events. Every now and then I saw maybe 2 or 3 at most on a weekday, but everyone wants that Friday, Saturday or Sunday event. So that's sort of going to max out. So I came up with 81 potential event days. And there's already 65 occurring this year. And the staff would be overworked, I think. We were accommodating 81 on that day. So I think we're at a bit of a maximum. One of the other questions was the great room that we're looking at in the hotel. That would just be, similar size as Enchantment. And then in the off season, you could have an event. I anticipate fewer weddings. I personally got married in the winter, but a lot of people like that spring, summer wedding venue. But so it would be an either or. So we wouldn't have, it would just shift over into that venue. Carl explained last time that the tent has to come down. Gave you a little bit more info about the traffic and attached the traffic study that was done in 2017. We really already looked at the current event capacity for an average of 150 people per event, and Navarella Consulting did that traffic study. They counted traffic at the intersection of Gorge Road and 89. And while it did increase the vehicles per hour from 54 to 205, that's likely to be very close to what it would be in the future. The hotel is accommodating the guests that are already coming to the weddings, right? So, but there's almost another 100 vehicles per hour that you could add before the DOT threshold of what they call level of service C or better is exceeded, or impacted. So there's even more cushion in that. And then I gave you some numbers on the breakdown of how the sewage treatment facility would be calculated and how many gallons per day would be needed. All technical stuff there, but we had looked at that. We fought and worked through a lot of issues with DEC for the inn itself. They got that resolved in a separate system. So now we were going to carry that across the street, so we don't have to do that now. But I gave you a link there to Aqua Point, which was the company we're talking to. And they came up with a system that could basically produce, let's say, drinking water for your dog. They even gave us a system where you could discharge to the roadside ditch. We're going to a leach field to save some cost. And then also included was a rework of the current business zones, since we're not really doing any major use changes. We're actually taking away, more offensive uses in the development district proposal. So I just reworked that with track changes on, so you can see exactly what we were doing. I did summarize that in the last email, but I thought I'd throw that out there. I did want to just quickly respond to the county's review. Just a couple quick points. We're waiting to hear from New York State Parks to see if they have any concerns about the project. There was a comment about the 0 setback to the right-of-way line for accessory structures. The right-of-way is 50 feet, the road is 20, so there's 15 feet, if it's symmetrical on either side for utilities. Just like any urban environment, the right-of-way line is where the town or the municipality can work to install utilities. Gorge Road is also a pretty rural road, so there's not a lot going on there, so.
Mhm.
And we were only looking for some accessory structures. As an example, we have a stone wall right on that right of way line currently in the north side of Gorge Road, so. You know, that's considered a fence by some. Let's see. The lighting, to echo some of the comments, we're working for dark sky compliance for everything. And of course, using LED and really Carl has actually transformed a lot of the lighting on site on the existing, which is this current site, converted a lot of that lighting. It's pretty offensive and a lot of glare. The other ones here, there's comments about the scenic byway. And what that is, if you look at a scenic byway, there's 6 intrinsic qualities of a scenic byway. I'm not gonna remember them all off the top of my head, but there's cultural, there's visual. I should just grab that document. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, so scenic, cultural, historic, natural, and recreational. In the scenic category, man-made development can actually contribute to the quality. So, and then cultural, it actually, this is from scenicamerica.com, which is the federal level organization. You know, they talk about places culturally, places that have special events or vernacular architecture. That's what we're going for here with this hotel, is to reference the inn, might be a different style, something that fits the rural character, could be barn-like. We've shown some lodge buildings from the Adirondacks, which would be nice. And those tend to be natural wood, stone, things that blend with the environment. So we think we're on track for this, not to mention that the hotel provides a place for people to come and enjoy the scenic area. So, and that's right out of the comp plan too. And then the county also brought up cultural resources inventory. There's only one view, and that is actually from the point at the park. It's described as a 360 view. So we did do a study that I didn't submit, and I just wanted to show you here. So just to tie it back to reality a little bit better. It's not, people don't believe our renderings, but we're modeling that scale and we're showing you what it is. So anyway, here's a photo of the existing condition. We're out on the water. The scenic view that's highlighted in the county resource or inventory is over to the right, typically not on the water, but on the water is fair game too.
Yeah.
So you can see the inn, you can see the tent peeking over the hillside, and you can see Edgewood up in the background there. So great. Right over
Right
there.
there.
Yeah.
House is on screen. So, and then what I did was I tried to camera match that view as best I could with my model of the inn and the tent. So hopefully that proves to some people to think the models are a false representation. Same view, and in the background here, you can see the roof line of our proposal, which again, we want to build up, not out, with that 70% lot coverage allowance in current zoning that we're going to reduce. I also want to point out right on the left here, that's actually Edgewood. So the roof line of the new building, and this is lake level view, which is what people would have. I did submit some drone photography just to give a sense of the overall conditions. And I did want to just read one thing about that comes out of, so the county has the scenic inventory, but they also have a scenic resources guide. And I thought this was an interesting comment. Aesthetic issues are real and evoke strong reactions from people. They deeply affect the way we feel about a place, whether or not a business will want to locate or people want to live there. The big one was they have economic implications. Many communities are dependent upon tourist dollars for a large measure of their income. Tompkins County's rich visual environment is a valuable asset that creates a sense of identity and well-being for residents of the area. If there's one thing I'd say, there's this term in the zoning and the comp plan. I think it's more in the comp plan, but ecotourism. I ask a lot of people, what does that mean? And people don't quite get it, but I actually think the inn is the stopping place, the place of respite where you come and You can stay overnight, you can hike the trails, you can enjoy the lake, and you don't have to drive back into Ithaca or whatever, and then the wedding venue is actually promoting that tourism as well, so. Those are some of the big comments from the county, so, and I think it relates to everything that you've asked as well. In the supplemental submission, there were additional renderings. I'll just go through those quickly. There's no doubt there is vegetation. This is the view from Route 89 South, looking towards the Gorge Road intersection. In the upper left, you see Edgewood. And then even though it is a larger hotel structure, you don't see it here, but let me go to the next view. Once you get up close to it, it will be there, and we will screen it, and I've put some vegetation in there. But if you go around the rural and look at the rural character of the area, you see barns along the road, seeing buildings is not, for some reason, sometimes that comes across as a negative thing. My job is to make the buildings attractive to look at, so. This was the earlier view, same view as before, but a little bit further. Actually, it's a little closer and a little to the left. And then down in the park, you can barely see the inn up here. The tent venue you can't see, and there's so much vegetation, which you could see from the aerial photos that we sent, that there just really isn't much of there won't be a view of this. The inn is more prominent. And then I just sort of kind of worked my way around, came back. So this is right at the intersection of Gorge Road. What I discovered today, so if I can find this quickly. I have a great shot, but the photo from earlier today. There's actually a lot more vegetation along Route 89. So there's Lakeview, which is where the hotel goes. And now if I go back to the rendering, so actually more of that building. Now, granted, when you get right in front of the building, there aren't trees. It is a woods. But we hope to make this an iconic looking building that becomes an identity within the town and becomes part of the cultural and historic fabric. And then, the renderings, or sorry, the aerial photos, these were just to show, I'll go back one here. Just what we're working with. That's the project site. It's largely developed. We're going to take this, a few trees in the middle out and put the hotel right there. So it's not a massive environmental impact by any means. And then Carl actually floated some balloons up about 55 feet. They're moving around a little. 65. Okay, a little bit higher. These are all taken, this image was taken with a drone. So it's actually elevated. You would probably be another 15, 20 feet lower than that. The one that I like the most, and I think it's telling, is probably this one here. So granted, with this one, I'm way up in the air, probably 200 feet maybe. No one would ever see this, but I wanted to zoom in. You can see a red and yellow balloon. So that shows when you're high up in the air, our proposed building is actually lower than Edgewood. I just wanted to give a sense of, tying the real world to those renderings. So that give you, I thought this was a nice shot of the park just to show that the park is enjoyed in that center lawn space or at the beach. There were many trees. And there were concerns about the impact on the falls and everything, but the falls is way around the corner. You can never see the two together. So I think that really covers that piece. Gave you the view from the lake. Oh, I did do an additional section, and I will email this to Neil so you guys can take a look. So you got the lake out to the left. Bring that back a little bit. See that sliver of blue? Route 89, east property line, proposed building, parking underneath. Existing drive, slopes up. There's the pond existing now. Edgewood is right here. We were talking about a future building up here on the back of the property line. Interestingly, this project with a 55-foot height to the peak, from the high side, which is what we're proposing, is actually 10 feet lower than Edgewood's roof, and that's why in those renderings, it sort of just maps out about. the
That's
same.
helpful. That's a good one. What,
Yeah.
what would be good to see is a little further behind. Good. The slope, what are the,
Yeah, that slope that you see right there is probably pretty consistent, and then it will climb again. If you come down Gorge Road, you can feel that.
Yeah,
That slope
right.
there. You know, I forgot to show you one view. Yeah. So this is the view from on Gorge Road. The inn is over to the left.
Okay,
Um,
so this is as you come
So
down.
you're coming down Gorge Road, in the upper right there, you can see Edgewood,
Right.
and then those trees are lining the existing drive, those are existing trees. So, and keep in mind, this
Yeah.
is not the design for the.
Yeah,
building,
right,
but, we want to articulate it with a lot of
That's good.
variation.
yeah.
Carl gave me a hard time because I did the Monopoly Hotel with one long ridge and it wasn't looking good. So
Right.
that's why I
Oh,
keep
but
it
it,
around.
but it is representative of the height of the building.
It is,
Like,
yeah.
there's not any,
Yeah.
like, tower coming off of it, like, that's
Right.
the height is represented.
Yeah, we would, would we maybe ask for a
Little
little
cupola.
cupola? How could we not with
With
the inn over
image,
there, but,
right.
and then, where was I? I wanted to zoom in, you saw this on the previously submitted, but I just superimposed the profile of the current inn.
Oh, yeah,
You know, to
yeah.
show.
Yeah,
It is a little taller in height, but the cupola itself
yeah.
goes above every floor. Granted, this is a larger building. And then just finally, I ran around in Google Maps and Street View and all that, and I was just trying to get a sense of the character of the town of Ulysses, right? So this is regional access. Its footprint of the gray building on the lower left there is actually 28,000 square feet. We're looking at about 20,000 for this project. And then obviously there's other buildings, but that's just an example
It's
of
a good comparison.
something you find in the area.
Mhm.
The top image there is a farm on Perry City Road. Again, just showing that farms and architecture do become part of the cultural fabric. The lower image there with the red is just an example of, as you're approaching the inn, you're gonna be confronted with buildings the whole way.
Yeah.
Next one down the top of the screen, little hard to see there, zoom in a little bit for you. If you would let me, you know, this is a residential property, a barn on the right, and a larger timber frame structure in the background. Architecture, and you've got some lake view in the background. That's what people experience. I'm showing the farm that's just up Gorge Road, just to show that the character nearby also has a large farm.
Yeah.
It's in a, it's in a little, the condition's a little rough, but, there's the other side of it.
Yeah.
But it's just something you find as you're driving in the area. And I bring that up because the scenic inventory for the county shows a view on Gorge Road, looking down, and in the winter time, when the leaves are gone, you can see a couple glimpses of the water. This time of year, you really don't see it. That was only identified as a characteristic view, and there are many views like that in the area. With the hotel to the right, we're not taking that view away. But I also just wanted to show that Gorge Road is not just, you don't go up the hill into parkland. It's still a varied backdrop. And then the last image here, which really shows that, you know, the world we live in and survive with, you know, which is a little too car centric, but you want to come visit the park, you got to park. And that's what the foot of the park looks like.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we're doing anything close to the visual impact that this would have. So I just bring that up. I need to be a little apologetic. I don't want to beat up on the state park too much, but it is there. That's a reality of what we're looking at.
Jason, I really appreciate you putting together the
Yeah.
information that you put together for us. And especially the way that you laid it out in that list. You talked about the things that we asked about, like additional rooms, additional events, additional guests, parking. And I guess what strikes me, first and foremost is the view shed study, because I think, a lot of the things that present as concerns initially, like, traffic, parking, etc., are mitigated in some ways by the fact that there's only so many weekends a year, and just the way that you describe the use. You're not doing two simultaneous events, you're doing events here, and if they're rained out, they're here, or if it's the winter, they're here as opposed to there. They potentially could be both, but that's not the plan. And also the view shed, that was sort of what stood out to me is, a 75-room hotel. Like, is that cohesive with the character of this area? Is it cohesive with the town plan? And looking at the view shed, I see that the top of the roof is really, it's not even as high as the top of Edgewood. It's not as, it doesn't have as big of an impact on the view shed as the written description conjures. So that stood out to me. And
Yeah, I think that I'm really interested in what you get from the state park
I'm interested in that
and
too.
what they say. I mean, right now, there's no trails immediately behind, so that you're walking along and, oh, look at this big house here. And I've been on trails where that's happened.
Mhm.
And so it would be great to prevent that kind of in an environment, and probably, so it looks to me, just looking at the trails, that that's not an issue. However, what are their plans for developing it? It's relatively undeveloped area of the woods.
Yeah.
My only concern is, I've noticed that on 89 now, at the park, there's a lot of traffic,
Yeah.
a lot of cars parked there. So that would be one of my concerns, is to see if we can get another traffic survey to see what it is, because the last one was 2017, and a lot has changed in those years. Because every time I drive by now, there are people walking across the street, and the park lots are almost totally full. So
That is true.
that would be a concern.
That is true.
Yeah, and that makes sense as
Yeah.
a site plan review.
Right,
Site plan.
and
Yeah.
also the parking for the guests,
Mhm.
that would be another one.
And then, I mean, obviously, as part of site plan review, we need to, have a detailed rendering of stormwater.
Right.
Does that include underground cistern or
Yeah,
not?
yeah,
Yeah, I thought you
yeah,
mentioned
we
that.
were successful with under the wedding.
Yeah,
field there.
great, because given that amount of roof, and the roads right there, we already have flooding on 89, you already get water and gravel running across the road. So definitely like a robust stormwater plan, especially, with the way that Gorge Road comes down. I did notice one comment in the county's review. They mentioned that the development district proposes a 5-foot setback for primary buildings and a 0-foot setback for secondary. What's the purpose of asking for that? Because that's an unheard of setback. Like, you can't even plow snow onto
Yeah, so,
off of a road with that kind of setback.
well, so the right of way is 20-foot roadway.
Mhm.
I don't see that changing for what Court Road really is. You got 15 feet on both sides, and that's usually the stormwater ditch. That's where the
Ditch,
snow
yeah.
goes.
Mm.
So, but the reason for it is, and it actually speaks to parking. Carl's talked about having a security structure at the parking lots, because it's a constant enforcement issue. The park lots are full and people come parking. So he's constantly calling tow trucks to deal with. It's parking for.
Never a tow truck, no. But we do put guards.
Oh, you've never done. tow
No,
trucks,
never towed, but I have a great relationship with the park, and what happened was during COVID, they put a reduction of how many people could go in the park. And what they learned is, with that reduction, they didn't have a septic issue. So now they've adopted that number as a number that's an allowance for the park. At least 2 times a weekend, they'll close the park. They text me immediately, because I have about 7 minutes to get somebody out of their driveway where the whole place is full. We've never towed anybody, but we have been short-staffed when we get out there and our parking lots are halfway full, so it is an issue. And Fred and I talk about it a lot. on how to handle it, but you know, he's got his own headaches with septic that he's
Yeah.
trying to deal with. Expansion of bathrooms and things like that. But that's that is a change that has been an accidental sort of discovery during COVID that now they've adopted.
Yeah, okay.
And let me just go back to the setback. The other reality, which is what we were fighting for with the original variances to build a structure where the wedding garden is. Is that even though it's a public road, the only neighbor is the Inn at Tagatic Falls. So usually setbacks are designed to provide access to light and not intrude or privacy. We're fighting each other in this case, so
Yeah,
to have a little bit of relief on that, and plus that was only on Boardrow, we're
Yeah.
maintaining the full
What-
30 foot
yeah.
setback, and that's from the right of way,
Yeah.
from the road edge.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, my concern on it is, I remember going out to Newfield and seeing some flooding where, you know, the road and the 15 feet next to it had just been washed into a crater,
Yeah.
you know, and somebody's front porch was dangling over it. With Gorge Road being as steep as it is and the rains that we've had, you know, if there needed to be work or, you know, any expansion of the ditches there, anything like that, that's really sort of more what I'm
Makes you
what I'm
vulnerable.
concerned
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be putting any, I don't really see a large structure being 5 feet from the line, but you know. But 0 for the accessory, something small would be nice.
For the
just so that-
parking. mostly.
Yeah, because you're fighting where the parking lot is,
Mhm.
you know, that building, plus it's right at the entry point,
Right,
sort of like a pillar, you know.
right.
You know, natural disaster comes along and it's a minor.
You could replace it, right? So our task tonight is the same as it was, you know, last time essentially. Create a checklist of additional items that we'd require, if any, from the applicant in order to facilitate, you know, the planning board's deliberations. And, you know, additional information the board would require from any staff, you know, or legal to facilitate its deliberation. So I'm hearing from Mo an updated traffic study. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate for this.
it's 6 years and COVID has changed people's use patterns.
Yeah, and like I said, the 89 there, the traffic now gets pretty heavy and there's a lot of people crossing back and forth all the time.
Mhm.
So it just would be
Yeah,
a good idea, I think.
So that would be a recommendation to the town board to have us do.
Right.
yeah,
have a
yeah.
traffic study.
And then
Okay.
I'm hearing from you, Linda, wanting to hear what the state parks report says as well.
Yeah,
as
I
part of
think
that
it would
checklist.
formalize a report. I think that would be a good idea, that they don't have plans for a spur trail or something like that,
Yeah.
you know, coming right up in.
They have told us no plans for behind the property, but let's put it.
Put it in, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
sure.
what I,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
You know,
And the other thing is a topograph.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
definitely.
Space, yeah,
yeah,
because I don't think we have one yet.
I don't think we do.
I didn't see one.
And
I think the original submission.
Did it have it?
on the site
Oh,
plan.
okay, I'm sorry. If it's there, it's fine.
It's
Alright.
LiDAR, it's not,
The only other
Oh, okay.
would be
which is pretty accurate.
parking
Okay,
spaces,
yeah.
total parking spaces for both areas.
I just want to see the top of.
What do you mean, the number or the?
Yeah,
But
the
did it
number
go
of
all the way
parking
back through
spaces,
the
how
park?
many parking spaces they actually.
More context.
Right, yeah, that's, yeah.
You're talking about almost 300 cars, maybe 250 cars.
Okay,
That
So-
was the other one is total parking spaces that you're gonna have when you're completed.
That is the 225,
that is.
Yeah.
How many?
225 across all properties.
Is that enough?
Yeah, so what I wrote there,
I saw,
I
yeah.
did the breakdown.
Yeah.
It's a surplus of 67 spaces.
And
And
there's
that's
no,
being
there's
conservative.
no overflow there. I mean, if you
Well,
had.
that is the-
67. So 67 spaces, so Carl could make arrangements, you know, some employee parking would be needed, but obviously he can do that in a different way. He does have a facility, a storage facility just up the road. You know,
But-
so he can make employees park offsite. So let's say there's 50 surplus spaces, that equates to at least another 100 people, if not, you know, 200 people.
Well, that's,
You
yeah,
know, depending on how they, and remember in the restaurant, you'll also find that the restaurant gets. And the inn itself gets closed down for the larger events, so there's no restaurant service
Okay.
for the, so as it grows,
Right,
the kitchen can only do so much, so.
and does that include the underground parking?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where a lot of the parking is,
Okay.
and then there's some overflow grass parking
right. we
north
saw
of
that.
Hillside, and
Yeah.
then more of developed permanent parking, but with permeable pavers. Just north of the hotel site, yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd want?
No, but
Us
he
or
wrote
the
everything
board,
out that we have,
yeah.
just the items that we just mentioned.
Yep.
today.
You know,
Yeah.
anything else you could think of? That'd be helpful for us or the town board.
Yeah. The thing, your your monopoly houses. Are a bit an issue. I'm just concerned about the just mass of it from a frontage and overwhelming even the inn.
Yeah.
Itself, just from a context point of view and how it's gonna look. So it was a little hard. I mean, it was great to see it the way you laid it out. I don't know if there's anything in your bag of tricks.
I
you
mean,
can
I don't
do
know, I
to-
mean, I guess I would just say, there's so much vegetation, which you'll see in those drone aerial photos, along Gorge Road, that you have to get out here before you
Yeah,
see the
I
two
know.
together, you know?
Yeah,
But I saw your face when you looked at that gray block of,
Yeah,
yeah, I had the same impression. It's,
yeah.
the reality is he's super expensive and I don't wanna.
I
start
know,
designing
I understand.
if I have, you know, the space to do it right.
It's-
That's atrocious and we're never gonna come back to you, which we are gonna, you know, at some point. That was something
Yeah.
ugly like that. I have
Yeah.
no interest
Oh, I
in
know,
building a
I know.
big Great box like
Yeah.
that.
It's just the height, I mean, once again, I mean, the whole development of this area I did some research on it, and in 1988, it got. There were plans to try to. And a request to build higher, a larger facility, and it got turned down and the people gave up on doing it. And then in 2001, they built the ones
Yeah,
that's there now,
Edgewood, yeah.
Edgewood, thank you. Yeah, so, and that was within the constraints. And, the height limitation is kind of a proxy for keeping things in scale. And that's probably my biggest concern is the scale of it versus the whole area. And it's just hard. And you have a much better sense than I do, because visualizing it, my spatial sense on that isn't the greatest.
I'll go way out on the lake next time I look back.
Well,
Let it die.
I don't never go on the lake, so I don't see it that way. Even I'm thinking of coming down 89 and be, overwhelmed with that and never.
Well, we're hoping
even
you'll be
seeing-
excited.
Right.
What is that?
Right.
I wanna go
I've
into
stayed in
that great
Edgewater.
room. Keep in mind, the great room will be right on the front with a lot of glass, so
Yeah,
that'll soften the visual impact.
Well,
That
that's
that
true,
white
too.
mask that I showed is a little.
right,
imposing.
the Monopoly House doesn't have. It doesn't-
Yeah.
So I'm not giving up on it, I just,
I mean,
Alright,
I'm
I'll
thinking
throw
when
some
I'm
glasses.
on the lake. There are houses that are more imposing than that.
Yeah.
Because they
Well-
don't have the vegetation in front of them.
Yeah.
And they're quite large as well.
well, they didn't ask us, did they?
No, they didn't. Okay, I think that's all. Anything
Yeah,
else?
no,
Linda?
that's-
Anything
that's
else?
good.
No, just looking at the plan. That's all.
Okay. All right,
All right,
Thank you. very much.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so that. really brings us to the close.
did you want to do another?
Well, this isn't a public hearing.
Anyway,
Oh,
No, I
Oh,
know,
information.
yeah, I don't,
no, but just in case there was any comments.
on this. No, because it's not a public hearing. I
Okay.
feel like that's unfair to the applicant, yeah. You know, yeah, all right, yeah,
Just real quick on that, and ask Nate just to verify, but the planning board does not have to schedule a public hearing for this at this
right,
time.
right, yeah.
You'll just make a recommendation to the town board,
Mhm.
the town board will hold the hearing.
Yeah.
But I believe, Nate, if you can confirm, like, if you wanted to hold a public hearing,
Mhm.
you could
Mhm.
prior to see your recommendations.
Well,
I mean,
so
the-
the town board would probably do a hearing.
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
the town board
Yeah.
has really only asked us here for a checklist of what we want. They haven't asked us
And a
for,
recommendation.
I'm not seeing that. in the
Put a
memo.
public hearing because maybe some people have some ideas also.
Yeah,
All right, I'm in favor of that then. We could do that. I mean, we could schedule one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear what the residents,
I certainly
Yeah.
will too.
Yeah.
I certainly will too.
the folks that have to live with it and come by it after they go for
Yeah.
groceries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we could schedule a public hearing for a month. That would give time to give notice. No, for the fifth. Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I saw you chatting or talking, Nate, but we didn't hear you.
No, I was just agreeing with you, Neil.
Thank you.
so I'd accept a motion then for a public hearing for September fifth.
Would you speak up, please?
I would accept a motion for a public hearing for September fifth. Thank you.
Yeah.
Would you?
Oh. I make a motion
I'll
to.
second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And you'll have that information for us.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
before. Okay, okay.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, great. All right, I think that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think that concludes the meeting for tonight. I'd
Um,
accept,
A motion to
do
adjourn.
we have a board liaison, town board liaison here?
No,
No, we do not. Okay, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion.
I seconded.
All in favor?
Do we get a public comment? for this?
On this, we scheduled a public hearing. However, we could accept
Yeah,
comment tonight.
I'm,
I don't see why not.
Okay, then I'll open the meeting
Yeah.
again. I'll make a motion to open the meeting. again.
All right,
second,
all right,
I,
all right. All right, all right,
Okay.
all right, go ahead. Yeah.
My name is Sally Yates. I live at 7520 Willow Creek Road. This project is concerning to me. This has been focusing on the architecture and the plan and all that, but I'm much more concerned about the activities that will be going on at the inn, especially if it's expanded in the way that it's planned to be. Teganic Falls State Park is, to me, I live right above, kind of above the inn, and so what goes on there affects me, especially the noise. That's what I'm concerned about. And in addition, Teganic Falls is the park it's an amazing place. I mean, it's precious and fragile natural treasure that needs to be protected from encroaching and development. The land, the water, the natural history are all unique to this area. I mean, it's a special place. We have a responsibility to ourselves and to future generations to protect it. If it gets destroyed, it's gone forever and it can't be replaced. Most of the people who come to this area come to visit the falls, to hike the trails, to camp, enjoy the lake in many different ways. And those ways, those activities are connected to the spirit and the environment of the area. I think they don't come here to visit the inn. I mean, yes, some people do, but the majority of people are not coming here to visit the inn, stay at the inn. I think an expanded inn activity doesn't really fit into the other things that are going on into the area, the setting that it's in. And it could be very damaging to the very reasons that the people are coming here for. So if it's not quiet, if it's not beautiful, if there are too many people involved in activities that are not really related to the area, why come here? I mean, so I think the number of people coming here with some connection to the inn is fairly small in comparison to the total number of visitors and local residents. I
Just
don't
one
see the
minute.
need, sorry,
Just 1 minute.
1 minute, okay. I don't see the need to concede to requests for changes that would serve only relatively few people and not the residents around the area. Many of whom came here because of the natural beauty and to live close to the influence of the lake and the gorge and the falls. If the inn is given the ability to change the current zoning, I dread the impact it will have on the neighborhood. As I said, one thing I'm especially concerned about is noise. I don't know it's already noisy. For example, on the weekends, they have their events outside. It's very loud music.
Sometimes it's so loud, I shut all my windows and doors, I can still hear it. It's really annoying, and they don't seem to be interested in responding to requests to turn the music down. So if they're expanding, having all this other activity going on, how is that going to affect us? That my 3 minutes.
That is your
Okay,
3 minutes.
well, that's
if-
basically what I'm going to say.
Okay, great, thank you.
Can I respond?
Let's let other folks
Okay.
give comment, and then if you'd like to respond after, we can. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Joep Boer, Joep. And I'm BOR, and I'm having exactly the same concern. We live even closer to the inn, 7580 Willow Creek Road. And the noise pollution is atrocious. You know, and even when you call the inn, and okay, they may tune it down for a couple of minutes and goes up again. And so this is the present situation. What will it be in the future? I have a feeling that the management of the inn really doesn't care for the neighbors. And in this presentation we just heard, there's nothing about the impact on the neighbors of this project. There should be a survey of the impact on the neighbors. There's a whole bunch of neighbors everywhere, and I can guarantee you they are not so happy with this project. So again, the noise is the main concern. And then, of course, we have talked about the traffic and the Gorge Road, which is one of the most dangerous turns in the county. And then you may have whatever 200, more than 200 parking places, but I can guarantee you they will be in front of us if there is more cars. So I think, to come back to the point, do a survey of the neighbors. No, there will be another public hearing, sure, that's very good. But take in our concerns. We are very nervous about this project, and I'm very annoyed, you know, that they don't do anything at these weddings to get pleases. They don't come with their sound to say, okay, you know, what is the sound on your deck? Then there is another concern, you know, when there's fireworks, the animals are freaking out, you know. And I think you should also take into consideration this aspect of animal abuse, because
In 1 minute.
well, basically I've said what I want to say. And in the next public hearing, maybe we can expand on this, but I would ask back and request the board to do something about the neighbors, take it into consideration. We have heard everything now about this. What about in the winter, you know, that huge, you're concerned about that tall building. We will be looking at that building, you know. Are we happy about it? No, of course not. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I didn't prepare because I didn't know about this meeting until the last minute. And I'm Durga Boer from 7580 Willow Creek Road. And I got bumped somehow from the Ulysses mailing list and said I was put back on, but I didn't get the last message and it came to me via someone else. But okay, so I'm not prepared, although the noise is terrible. On wedding nights, it's just terrible. And the fireworks, I mean, everybody likes fireworks to a point, but when it's when you get the noise and not the color, they become something completely different. And I am concerned, I'm a wildlife rehabilitator. I'm licensed in New York State, and I'm very concerned about the wildlife. There's a lot of nocturnal animals that are out, and there's a lot, the birds sleep. Most all birds, there's a few exceptions, are sleeping at night. And our bird population is dwindling. The only bird population around it is not dwindling, our water birds. So that's a big concern with me too. I found my concern about the expansion of the inn from 1917. And so I'm something still ring true. And this was one thing, I use the lake all the time. I'm a kayaker. I'm there every kayakable day. I swim all the time. People, I mean, there's droves of people crossing at the zebras, crossing the street from the park to the gorge and back to the lake. So there's that concern, and if you have a 200 and something or space parking lot, whatever he said, there's gonna be that many cars. Let's face it, maybe half of them are coming from the north. That's the New York State Thruway coming down for a wedding. So this is a paragraph from what I read in 2017, so it's not as current. The statistic won't be as current. But I was able to find the most recent statistic on the internet, and then I did the website. The corner of Gorge Road and Route 89 is among the top 20 highest crash rate intersections in Tompkins County for 2008 to 13. And this should be of great concern. And now there's always more cars. There's, with all the development in Ithaca, there's more traffic, there's more people. The lake has been more crowded since I moved here
1 minute.
28 years ago. So this was from the Tompkins County, New York Gov files that and it's crash reports. And when you consider 20 of the highest, there's thousands of intersections in Tompkins County. And this was 20 of the highest. So, and also Agard Road in 89, terrible accidents all the time. I mean, where the people get helicoptered over to Sarah and that. So that's pretty much in the noise. Sally had a decibel reader, and from her house, he was above the legal decibels 3 weeks ago. From her house, not from down on the road. And she lives a little bit down on Willow Creek Road, so that needs to be and I don't, what kind of noise are we gonna get from the new place? Is there gonna be a deck? Is it gonna be outside? That's a concern.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
I'd like to.
Anybody else before your response? Go ahead. And then you can go after as a response.
Again, my name is Vivian Rose. I still live at 104 Pennsylvania Avenue. And I want to go back to the comprehensive plan in relation to this particular project. In addition to living in the village, I worked for the National Park Service for 23 years. And the most primary responsibility of the park is to preserve the resources for future generations. Any action that degrades the resource is one that we avoid as very much as possible. In the comprehensive plan in 2009, the entire area, including these properties, were zoned park and recreation. In the future land use plan, the entire property within the conservation area, which it was warranting a high level of scrutiny and consideration with respect to new development that has potential to impact the existing natural environment. In fact, according to the comprehensive plan, in order to implement landscape and watershed protection within the conservation area, the town should consider the number of mechanisms, including overlay zones, density limitations, stream setbacks, incorporation of specific design guidelines into the zoning law. Quote, in bold, appropriate land uses in this area include single-family residential, small-scale agricultural enterprises, small-scale eco-tourism-based businesses, and other low-impact uses. If you look at Teganic Falls State Park, the only housing there are tiny little cabins that people reserve in January. So in effect, the fact that they're asking for relief, I would like to ask for a wider setback from the road, not no setback. Anyone who walks into the park now and sees the lit entrance into that facility, which is right on their property line, knows that the intention is not to preserve the resource. The intention is to increase the profit. So in fact, if you look at the website for this property, you'll see that it says that weddings can accommodate up to 300 guests and that they can arrange for weddings to happen within the park. I checked, and approximately 50 wedding permits last year, half of which came from the facility. If you look at the pictures on the website,
30 seconds.
they are actually using the park, not their property, which has already been extensively renovated in the last 7 years. I left, I came back. Tompkins County changed, the town changed. The comprehensive plan says keep it for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? All right. Jason or Carl?
I'll just jump on that last comment. Weddings do occur in the park, the ceremony, and then the reception's held on the property. If you think about where people like to get married, often a state park is the venue that they want to do it in. So this is a business that promotes that. The entrance gate right by that parking lot that I showed you is much more attractive than the little toll booth structure that's there. Does it promote the business? Absolutely. Does it promote curiosity? What happens when I'm at the inn? People come up to us constantly and say, had no idea this place existed. I'll be back. We were here to visit the park, you know, so it goes both ways. But just back to the zoning, and I'm just going to say this for the record. Obviously, I think you understand what we're doing here. We're in a business zone. We're asking for bulk density modification within that zone, and I've given you the write-up for that. We're not asking for anything new. We could build multiple buildings across the site. We're actually trying to restrict ourselves with a 50% lot coverage from 70. So we are bringing it down. We got rid of dry cleaners and things like that. I think that's the traffic that crash report, I think, is easy to blow out of scale. We covered that in 2017 and the planning board got past that and approved the project. It's the current use that has the events. That's what's driving traffic right now. And everything seems to be working fine. We're building a hotel to support the event business. The guests that are traveling now from other venues for that day will be on site. You know, more of them will be. So as you know, as we presented before, that's a reduction. And then the noise piece, all I hear, and I'll let Carl speak to that next. He tells me that they're monitoring when they receive calls, that they're monitoring decibel levels. Maybe their decibel meter's broken. I don't know. Maybe there needs to be more enforcement. But what I hear is an effort to adjust the sound. Maybe the DJs aren't listening. I don't know, but I'll let Carl speak to that. But there is a regulation for sound.
Thank you.
We're back again, and I have people that don't like me again. I care about the neighbors. I do my best. I do have fireworks about 6 or 7 times a year. I've changed the fireworks so they're only 3 minutes and 58 seconds long. I've created except for the 4th of July, I created an email chain that we send out to everybody who wants to be on it to alert them. I don't want to disturb them. I don't want to hurt animals, but this inn was built in 1873 by John Jones. He owned the whole park. And in 1925, he sold the park to New York and he created the state park. His generosity to give away the waterfall and the waterfront and everything else. The only thing we've retained in that sale is an easement for water. And at that point, this has been an operating hotel since 1935 and an operating restaurant. And it's been hard for this hotel. You know, when I go back and I look at the books, the man who owned it before me tried for years to sell it. Nobody would touch it. It needed so many millions of dollars to fix it. We have a wonderful relationship with the park. We have a wonderful relationship with many people in town. One thing we do is we not only have large event, beautiful weddings in our enchantment, but we have modest sized weddings in our hotel. We call micro weddings. They're primarily about 99% people that live here. They're weddings that they can afford. And when they have a micro wedding, they're not paying to be in enchantment, so they go to the park. We have a wonderful arrangement with Fred. We pay him a fee to go to the park. We go down there, we have 1 hour to set up, have the wedding, take it all down. We remove every rose petal. We make it sure that it doesn't look like we were there. Fred has a pavilion that he rents for weddings. Anybody
can have a wedding in the park. It's not me exclusively. I take advantage of what anybody could take advantage of in giving somebody a beautiful experience. And that's what we're doing here. We provide a first-class event in this area, second to nobody. And with regard to the music, we meticulously monitor our music. We continuously go up to if I feel the music is inappropriate, we do lower it. The other day, Mrs. Yates called us up, said the windows were rattling in her house. I'm thinking there must have been a party by her house because I went inside the inn and it was quiet. One more thing, we have a hotel full of people. Nobody ever makes a noise complaint that are just 100 yards away. So where I'm sure they hear the noise and I'm sure it's bothersome, and I apologize if it's created inconvenience. It really is about, we rent the garden for about 5 hours. And the beginning is just cellos and things, and people are getting married. There's little music. There's so many speeches that collectively the music is probably 2.5 hours. I get a phone call from Mrs. Yates, lower it, lower it. This is somebody's magical day who is getting married. I do lower it. I do the best I can. I cannot turn it off. I've made a financial arrangement and a contract to have a wedding. Who goes to a wedding and doesn't want to dance? Who goes to a wedding, doesn't want to have wedding cake? It's a party, it's a celebration. And I think we do a great job. I want to work with everybody, regardless of what I've done. I've been down this road before. If you hate me, you hate me, you're always going to hate me and whatnot. But anyway, I do care, and I just want you to know that's my response, unprepared for, the public hearing tonight, because I could bring 25 people right now that could say nice things.
Thank you.
And you'll have the opportunity.
I know.
Yeah, we just wanted to get feedback and
I get
hopefully
it.
you.
No,
can
I
take
got
care
it.
of
You got a good group
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Good noise.
I'll
Yeah.
accept a
I'll
motion
make a motion
to,
to
um,
adjourn.
to adjourn.
I second it.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, folks. Thank you for